Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Your Business webinar series. My name's Tom Dufour, and I am the CEO of Big Sky Franchise Team, and we have a great session in store for you today. And if you're new to us here, by the way, please make sure you take a look at subscribing to one of our weekly podcasts called Multiply Your Success if you're looking for great additional content. And if you're tuning in and you say, boy, this was some great content. I'd love to share this with someone at my office or a friend or a colleague or someone you know. This will be made live and available next week on YouTube and on our blog and a podcast called Franchise Your Business. So just wanted to give a quick introduction and thank everyone for tuning in that's here. And our guest today who's joining us is Rebecca Monet with Zorakle Profiles. And I've been in and around watching them, observing them, being a customer of theirs for many years in franchising. And in my opinion, I think they are the authority when it comes to franchisee profiling, especially franchise candidate profiling in the business. And so I'm so thrilled to have Rebecca on as the founder, chief scientist, and leader of the organization. So with that, Rebecca, I'd love to turn this over to you to get this program started for us today.
Get the ball rolling, right? So welcome, everyone. I'm so glad everyone is here. I thought I would share a little bit of what Zorakle does and how that whole process works and the science behind the Zorakle tool. So I've been in this space for 30 years now. Hard to believe. You know what, Tom, could you give me access to the screen? For some reason, I don't have access.
Yeah, it should be there. Try it again.
I'll try it again. Oh, yep, there we go. Perfect. So I've been in this space 30 years, helping franchisors and franchise consultants and brokers facilitate a right fit between a prospective franchisee and a franchise concept. So for us at Zorakle, everything is about that fit. Fit will end up being greater retention, greater performance, greater validation, greater satisfaction. So our entire focus is on just that franchisee, franchisor fit. Everything we do is deep in the franchise space. We think it's a unique space because the relationship is a unique relationship. This isn't an employee-employer relationship. This is a business owner working under an operating system that is needing to comply, needing to embrace, needing to leverage that operating system to bring brand awareness and to grow a business. So we think every franchise system is unique, their culture is unique, their stage of growth is unique, their value package is unique, and we appreciate that relationship between the franchisor and that franchisee. So as you know, we provide profiling tools, and they're somewhat customizable depending on the need of our client. But what I wanted to talk about today is the most important piece, which is the meta-analysis approach that Zorakle uses to help determine what makes someone a good fit within various franchise systems. Keeping in mind, everything we do with these meta-analysis methodology is focused on two things. Is this prospective franchisee? Is this current franchisee compatible within that franchise system? And how can we predict their future performance? And then how do we use a tool to help recruit the right franchisee, select, screen, and then, of course, sell and support that franchisee? As I mentioned, we've been doing this 30 years. We have franchisors of all sizes, from that emerging franchise system to what we call the empire brand or the legacy brand. Many of these brands, of course, you're going to recognize and know exactly what they are up to. So the idea here is, in franchising, what makes it a great business is what I call 4 tenets of franchising. First and foremost, the franchisor has to have a replicable model. Franchisors spend a lot of time, money, and energy creating that model, testing that model to make sure it plays in Peoria as well as in Tallahassee. They also spend a lot of time making sure before they put that business in Tulsa or New York or wherever they're putting it, that there is a viable market, enough clients, enough customers that can use that service that that franchise is providing. And then, if applicable, they're also making sure they have a modeling technique in place that picks the perfect location for that franchise concept. Now, we deal with at Zorakle the final piece of that, which is the franchisee. So we can have a great model in a viable market at that perfect corner location. But if we don't have the right franchisee, things are going to go a bit sideways. And that's where this science is helpful to our franchisors, to our franchise brokers, and others that are helping people make wise and informed decisions about business ownership. So we deal with everything the franchisor deals with and everything that franchise broker deals with. We know that the cost of acquisition of a franchisee is very high. And we also know that a poor fitting franchisees can cause some challenges for them as well as the franchisor. The cost alone of training and supporting a B player in franchising is 140% higher than for an A player franchisee. So there's a lot of costs that the franchisor incurs to try to boost up someone that might be a poor fit and might be performing poorly within that system. Never mind, a poor fitting franchisee tends to be unhappy and dissatisfied and maybe even a bit of a squeaky wheel, right? And ultimately that leads to poor validation, making it difficult for both the franchisor and the franchise consultant to bring in that next wave of franchisees when our first franchisees might not be comfortable within that system. Worst case scenario, that franchisee may not be comfortable complying with certain systems and processes simply because he or she is not a good fit, which could lead to more difficult situations like retention issues or, worst case scenario, even litigation challenges. But here at Zorakle, what we're really interested in is performance, right? We want a franchisee to pick a business that is going to reflect who they are, leverage their skills, and allow them to build a future. So it's all about performance for us here at Zorakle. So we also, as you know, work with brokers. And brokers today are working sometimes with 200, 300, 400, 700 franchise concepts. That's a lot for a franchise consultant to be able to fully understand. So our tools help the broker quickly understand their prospective franchisee, and equally important, quickly understand the franchisor and who is going to be a great fit within their concepts. So the tools will help facilitate strong engagement with a prospective franchisee, increases the credibility of the franchise broker, and also shows the broker how to communicate and engage that franchisee to move them across the finish line. So our brokers frequently claim a whole lot of deals are done simply by understanding our prospect. So this is the piece I want to spend time on, is this science that is so important when you're working with a current franchisee or a prospective franchisee. So one of the sciences is a values-based logic. This work comes out of Stanford Research Institute, and the idea behind this logic is to look at the drivers, the motivators, the values of a franchisee. Values will determine every penny that person's going to spend, how they're going to spend their energy, and how they're going to spend their time. Values will determine our future and all decisions around our future, including what kind of businesses we are going to be attracted to. Now, the nice part about values is when the values are aligned between a prospective franchisee or franchisee and the franchise organization, not only do we have more in common and there'll be more harmony, but we are making similar decisions. The franchisee is going to make similar decisions as the franchisor. It goes a long way to retention. When we see the world similarly, whether it's a spousal relationship, a good friend, a business partner, as what we would have in franchising, the more aligned we are, the longer that relationship. But the exciting part for me is the performance. It's always about performance for me. The next science is a stages of growth science. This is Ellie Grenner's work, Neil Churchill's work. The logic behind this is that every business, including franchise systems, will go through predictable stages of growth. And within each of those 5 predictable stages of growth are very precise, let's call them descriptors, attributes, characteristics of that particular stage of growth. Along with that are some predictable challenges or crises, is what Neil Churchill's called them, that we as franchisors are going to go through before we can get to that next stage of growth. So we want to know at Zorakle, we want to provide for you where a franchise system is in terms of their stage of growth. And equally as important, does the current franchisee fit within that stage of growth? And does that prospective franchisee fit within this franchise system and where we are as a franchisor? Some of us fit better in early stage franchise concepts. We like that it's dynamic. We like that it's entrepreneurial. We like that there's not 1,000 different rules we have to follow. Other franchisees fit better later on when things are more buttoned down, more plug and play, where all we have to do is embrace and leverage. So everyone fits a particular place and will do best within that. The next science is a cultural science. This comes out of the University of Michigan. This basically is 6 different markers that we look at from a franchisor's perspective to delineate, quantify, define that franchisor's culture. If you've had any experiences like I have had, where you've been in a work environment where you were a great fit culturally, you know how that felt and how much easier it was for you to perform. And if you've been a poor fit, you know what that's like also. So what we want is to make sure our prospective franchisee is a great fit within that franchise system's culture. The next science is one that everybody is familiar with. This is a true personality test, what we call a work style. This is William Marston's work. All personality tests, 99.9 anyway, come from either Carl Jung, Dr. Carl Jung's work, or William Marston's work. Zorakle has a preference to William Marston's work. And this gives us some information about the introversion, extroversion, more people focus versus project focus, what the speed is of a business that a franchisee can handle, how structured that business needs to be. So it gives us a lot of information around that. The next one is core competencies. This one is an interesting one because when I first started doing this years ago, we actually applied a core competency test or an aptitude test. But what I found was that if you're a prospective franchisee that's looking at a business, they usually have had some kind of great career. They are director of human resource at a large company, or maybe they are VP of marketing or information technology. So if we applied a core competency test in its raw form, we could quickly see that this prospective franchisee was great at human resources and training and mentoring and coaching and all of those things. We might know that that IT guy had great technical skills and management skills, but it didn't tell us, could they sell? Could they market? Could they deal with the operational side of the business? And businesses require us to have all 8 hard competencies. So we borrow the science from StrengthsFinders to look at the strengths of a prospective franchisee. And then we have a set of algorithms that takes those strengths and says, if you have these strengths, even if you've never sold, you've never marketed, you've never had to look at a P&L statement, it would show us that you could and that you had the raw talent to do so. And then the last 2 sciences, my favorite sciences, focus preference. Dr. Robert Nedford's work. He's a sports psychologist. So this science lets us know if a franchisee can move from one part of the business to another without losing inertia, making mistakes, and if they do, where they might begin to falter. So franchise support can come in and help in those areas. And then the final one is emotional and social intelligence. This is Dr. Daniel Goleman's work, very popular today because there's so many financial correlations. Emotional and social intelligence are considered soft skill sets. Emotional intelligence are those markers around everything I have to do as a business owner, as a franchisee, to manage myself, self-control, self-management, self-discipline, and things like self-motivation. And then the social intelligence are all of those markers having to do with managing others, my vendors, my suppliers, my employees, even my relationship as a business owner, as a franchisee with my franchisor. So it's things around leadership and conflict management and team building, and all of those kinds of markers that gives us a better idea. So just to kind of wrap this up, and then I wanted to share with you some reports. This meta-analysis approach, Zorakle is the only one that uses all 7 of these sciences in a 15-minute assessment. You will see each of these tools, or each of these sciences, I should say, are available out in the open marketplace. We got some great personality tests available. There's some great skills tests, great emotional and social intelligence tests. What makes us unique is how these things are combined. So let me give you an example. So if we only tested for personality, and I know a lot of people do that, less than 3% of our personality correlates to success. We can be an introvert, extrovert, we could be project-oriented, people-oriented, and it's not going to correlate to how successful we're going to be in business. So although we want to know someone's personality because it will tell us how to communicate with them, it will also tell us how to avoid conflict and build team, it's not a good indicator of franchisee, franchisor fit. Similarly, if we only did let's say a skills test, right? Then we would know this person has management skills and operational skills and maybe technical skills, but it doesn't tell us that they fit in our culture. It doesn't tell us they're going to be comfortable where we are in our stage of growth. It doesn't tell us they line up with our values and therefore will feel comfortable embracing our systems. So the key here is we want to know all of these things to better determine if someone is going to be a good fit with a franchise system. So the way we go about doing that in franchising, and this also benefits our franchise brokers, is we do what's called a SpotOn blueprint. This is a 4-step process where we go into the franchisor and collectively with their leadership team, we set some benchmarks and standards in place. These benchmarks and standards will later be used to separate the franchisees into 3 or 4 categories: top performers who are high fit, mid performers who are an okay fit or even a great fit, but they're not performing as well as we would like. And then the low performer, low fit franchisee who's struggling for one reason or another within our franchise system. So these standards could be things like revenue. It could be year over year growth. It could be average ticket sale or customer retention, or some things as simple as that franchisee pays their royalties and they mentor others. But the franchisor sets those standards for us. Then we assess the franchisees within that franchise system. Once assessed, the franchisor puts them into those categories that we talked about before, that top, mid, and low performer. Then a blueprint is created. It's a 64-page blueprint or report with a lot of charts and a lot of graphs, and it will delineate how your A player and your B player and C player are similar, and of course, more importantly, how they differ, and if there are any kind of correlations or causations of those various psychographic markers to performance. And then going forward, the franchise, we will implement some algorithms within that franchisor's software, which will then allow us to compare a prospective franchisee to a high-performing franchise algorithm, so the franchisor can side by side determine if that prospective franchisee is going to be a good fit. So in our time that we have left, I wanted to at least share with you a sample report so you can get kind of a big picture of what we're talking about and how all of these pieces come together. So this is the Eclipse report that we're looking at right now, and it is comparing a candidate, in this case, to a fast casual taco concept. So keep in mind, every franchisor is unique. So this is just the fast casual taco concept. So we can see that this candidate who's being compared to the high performers within that taco concept is a 83% kind of overall score in terms of how he or she fits within that organization. So 4 of these sciences that we just talked about, the values, the stage of growth, the culture, and of course the personality or work style, will let us know, will this person fit? Are they going to be comfortable in our system? Are they going to embrace? Are they going to retain? These sciences will give us a lot of information about that. And of course, it goes a long way to performance also. We can see that this candidate is a 95% values fit, 100% stage of growth, and 85% cultural fit, and the personality is at 50%. So this is someone that if we only tested, let's say, the values, would be a great fit. But because we're looking at everything, we're seeing that this individual is really more like a B player. He or she is going to struggle in certain areas. They're going to struggle a little bit in our culture as a franchise system. Their personality may not be great for this type of business. And then, of course, we want to look at competencies. In this case, our candidate scored a 92, which is fabulous, as it relates to core competencies. They have the sales skills, the operational skills, the marketing skills necessary to grow the business. They scored an 88 in terms of ability to go from one part of the business to another while keeping up the inertia and not making mistakes. And then from an emotional and social intelligence, 79 and 90. So let me just show you a couple little pieces in here of how this works. You can see that within each of these categories, we have set algorithms in place, or what we call targets. And then you can see with the green dots where a prospect fits. So, or scores rather, where we want them to score is within these gray areas. And we can see our candidate fit pretty close at 95, but was off in a couple of areas in the values section. So in each of these areas, you will see the gray area, and then you will see the green area that will tell us this is a candidate that's a fit. This is a candidate that we need to manage expectation. This is a candidate where there's some room for training and or support. But in each category, you can quickly sort of see where it is. The easiest place to kind of recognize, of course, is always the competencies, right? So we can see the ranges that our franchisor has in place. For example, we're looking for a franchisee with a score of 144 to 160 in leadership. Our candidate scored perfectly at a 156. We also see that this is a finance and ops business, and we need a score of somewhere between 135 and a 150, and our candidate scored a 109. So should he or she choose to go into the taco business, this is going to be an area where he or she is going to struggle. Same way we can see with the technical. So this offers the franchisor choose to bring this individual on. We've already warned them this is probably going to be a B or B minus player, but we also now know from a support training perspective, areas that we can have additional focus and help our franchisee in that onboarding and support from the field consultants that we might send out over time. Same way in some of these other areas, you can see some highs and some lows. 79 in emotional intelligence. These are soft skills. These are trainable, right? And you can see some issues in this area where this person is scoring lower, meaning to the left, rather than too high to the right. Someone who's not going to take as much initiative as we had hoped. Someone who's not as adaptable as what we need for this particular business. Someone who lacks a little bit of self-control, and so forth and so on. So this is just kind of big picture. Just know that bottom line, the goal here is to find a franchisee that's a great fit. So in a wrap up, I'd like to share one other little area that you might find helpful. And this is if you're on the broker side, and if as a franchisor, you want to participate in something like this. When a franchisor has completed the research and we've developed that blueprint and the algorithms, a franchisor can opt in, if they are working with franchise brokers and consultants, to share those algorithms. In other words, a franchise broker can go to their dashboard, compare their prospective franchisee to franchise concepts wherein they have the highest likelihood of a success, where they're going to be a good fit. Our brokers find this particularly helpful as it relates to dealing with so many franchisors right now. It helps them quickly see concepts that are going to be ideal for their franchise candidate. Oftentimes, this will allow our broker to show concepts that he or she may have not considered before. By seeing, wow, my prospect fits really well in this particular concept. Let me look deeper into that and see what I can share with my prospective franchisee. So that's my wrap up. Tom, I wanted to make sure if there's any questions that I can answer those questions too.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go ahead and open it up for anyone that's on here. Please feel free to type something into the Q&A or chat box there. We can go ahead and answer that. Feel free to, if you would like to ask a question, just hit the raise hand feature and we can unmute you so you can speak. I do have a question while we're waiting for some folks who might be interested in chiming in here, Rebecca. So you've shared how candidate can be compared to the preferences or what a brand thinks will be successful for these certain variables you walk through. But how do you assess what's important to a brand? So if I'm a franchisor, uh, do you help me figure that out? How does that all work?
Exactly. That's the number one goal, is to help the franchisor determine exactly what they're looking for. So we spend about 90 minutes with the leadership team at the franchise concept. So they will bring the director of operations and training and marketing and development. They'll all be in a single meeting that we facilitate, and we pull out of them what they believe is the ideal, and also what markers are currently using to prove that that's ideal, like revenue, right? Or profitability or customer retention. And ironically, it's different from franchise system to franchise system, right? What they consider ideal may be different than when you and I. And then, of course, once we assess the franchisees, we can either validate or prove that maybe that's not their ideal, right? We'll look at the data and say, you were 100% spot on. That's exactly your ideal. And sometimes it's like, oh, you're a little off in that area. I'll give you a crazy example. We had a franchisor some time back in the health and nutrition field. And they had a very clear picture of what they thought they wanted. And all of their marketing was guided towards attracting that type of people. Their colors, their messaging, their videos, this high-tech website, right? And once we assessed, it was not that person at all that was succeeding. It was a much quieter individual, much more reflective individual. It was someone that could connect one-on-one. It wasn't the muscle builder and the bodacious out there, look at me individual. And so they were attracting people to a concept wherein they wouldn't be successful. They needed now to say, the consumer was one person, right, who was building muscles, wanted to be sexy, wanted to be seen. But the owner of this nutritional place was not that person. That person was more of a coach, a mentor, an advisor, a listener, an encourager, someone that was very knowledgeable. So it was a different person that bought the business rather than the consumer. And so there had to be some redoing of the marketing and the attraction strategy. And once they made those changes and started to attract the right franchisees, not only did the franchisees perform better, but of course, franchisors will also succeed as our franchisees do.
Mm. Now, Rebecca, one question I had as I'm thinking about this is I'm wondering, are franchise sales and franchise development professionals, are they using these reports as the ultimate authority in making decisions? Are they, if someone matches below a certain percentage, are they just saying no? Are they passing on the candidate? Or are others using these just to help guide and add to their decision-making process? Will you talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, I never say this is an end-all, be-all. This doesn't replace those interviews and the background checks and do we like this person, right? What I can tell you is the longer a franchisor uses the tool, the more dependent they become on it because they see the results when they go against the results, right? If they choose to choose someone at 72%, then they can see ultimately that person's not going to retain, that person's requiring more support, that person may not be complying, that person is struggling, right? So in time, they become more and more dependent. But initially, it's not an end-all, be-all, right? And then franchisors use it differently, right? They'll use it for the screening process, which is what we recommend. If you get the right people to start with, there's less challenges down the road for all of us. But some franchisors, especially our bigger brands, Tom, what they're interested in is, I have all these beautiful B players that have been in the system for years. How can I help those B players become B plus, A minus, A players? What is it that's going on? So they're interested in the gap analysis that the Eclipse provides. and then they provide that to their field team, right? The field consultants, and then the field consultants can work with that franchisee. If we know our blind spots, which oftentimes we do not, right, then we can work towards either bettering that area or hiring to that particular area. So some of our franchisors that's what they're interested in. Help me with my B players, right? We're doing a good job screening, but we had all these people that came in early on that now with all these new systems, processes, and growth that we've experienced may now be, not living up to their full potential.
Great. Well, I am not seeing any questions come through here yet, Rebecca. So what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you if they're interested in learning more, taking a first step with you, or maybe trying out one of your profiles?
So the best way is obviously either through our website, zoracleprofiles.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn, right? Isn't that where everybody meets? It's kind of a happy place to be. So Rebecca Monet on LinkedIn. So those are the two best ways to get hold of me.
Great. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a great webinar session here. And again, just as a quick reminder, we will have this republished as a recording and available for folks who are interested in sharing this later on. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the holiday weekend here, and happy Easter, happy Passover, whatever you're celebrating this weekend. And thank you so much. Have a great holiday. Take care.